Now, what I'm going to do is to show you exactly how you can spot these levels, find where you're bouncing, and then make money off that in the futures market, specifically with something like Topstep and these prop firms. Because again, we're doing this every single day, and finding these levels is not as difficult as it may seem. But I'm also going to show you the formula and what it takes to make money and to scale money. Even if you're starting from a little amount, you're going to be able to see that these levels as well, showing you how to profit off them, going from one level to the next and to the next, of how you can do this. As you're retesting these zones over and over. I'm going to show you the formula and also back testing this as well, so you can see that we're doing this every single day. Now, again, I'm going to explain this in a few different ways, but I'm going to walk you through the entire thing, almost like a full course for absolutely free. And we have to understand what we're doing and what our goals are. So if you're interested in getting into prop firms, getting into Topstep, getting into whatever it may be, this might be the video for you. Let's get to work. Now, the first thing I want to say is you're probably going to go into this with a scalping mentality. And what do I mean by that? You're probably going to be taking quicker trades, maybe within a minute in and out, getting out, and you're not really trying to sit in those. This is primarily what this strategy is for and how I'm going to summarize all of it for you. So that is the first and most important thing to know. From there, we'll move on to our market analysis and understanding how you're actually going to be developing that said plan every single day. That's very important to know of how we're going to be breaking that down. And I'm going to show you exactly how we're doing that. Now, the best way that I can go over this is explaining exactly how I'm doing this every single day and giving you a breakdown. And I'm going to go over what I did literally today, this morning, okay? And if you want to trade with us and see how we're trading, the link is down below to see all of our trades and literally be live with us every single morning. So what you see here, the Nasdaq sat in our range for most of the night. I was basically giving a synopsis of what happened before market open. As market starts to open for downside, I want to stay under 1935. I'm looking for 19165, 1907, and then I'm looking down to 18977. For upside, if we reclaim 1935, I'm looking for momentum at a 19497, and then ultimately in 196, which is our next level. I didn't mention that one there, right? So you can see how we're opening up during the day. Now, as you move into the chart and you understand what happened, like I just showed you, is look what happens at market open. So again, I'm going to highlight really quickly where that market does open, which is right about here. Okay, market opens, you shoot straight down to our target of 19165. You get a 5-minute candle and you pop right back above that, and buyers do step in, right? So it's important to understand what and why this is happening, and it's following the trade plan, because if you don't have a trade plan, then you don't really know what your next steps are. So when we come into that level, I know what to expect, what to be looking for, and that's the significance, that's the importance of these levels. And then even from there, I know, okay, well, if we start getting back above this level here of 1935, I'm looking for a break and a retest to long back into our next level, and you got that action perfectly, right? So it's stepping stones every single day to making money in this market and making money trading this and finding those big opportunities for you. But that's just the tip of it, of knowing what to look for and how to look for it. I'm going to have more breakdowns of that as well. So the next part from there is you're jumping into identifying your set opportunities. Now we have our trade plan. We know what we should be looking for. And even if you don't, based on whatever strategy you're using, right, you need to understand what you should be looking for throughout the day, some type of bias to the up or to the downside, okay? Now from there, you're identifying those set opportunities. Now, this is where things start to get more interesting. Now, for key levels, the safest thing that you can typically do, right? I'm gonna break this down. I've broken this down quite a bit here on the channel, right? And so the safest thing you can do is basically, let's say these are two zones that we're looking at, right? Ideally, in a perfect world, a perfect scenario, what you're looking for is a break, a retest, continuation, right? Just like that. And you ended up getting that action right here on the day, okay? Even right here, another great example, if you go like to the 1 minute, you can see that you break below that massive level down here, you reclaim 19165 and you push back up, you hold your 90 MA, etc., and you get that action back to the upside. So what are you doing with key levels? What am I doing to find those opportunities? Because this is, again, the key area of what you have to be knowing to look for, right? As you're looking to get reactions at those levels. You're not looking for an immediate reaction, so pushing into it. Yeah, you can trade the initial rejection back down. And every single time, if you're trying to take that first touch of a level, you have to be going into a mentality that it's going to reject, because you're expecting sellers to show up at that level. That's why it is a level. So you could do that here as well. But again, for the best opportunity across the board, something that I always say is what you're really looking for is that break and that retest, right? Ideally. And you actually get a perfect example here where you break, you retest, and not only do you retest, but you also hit VWAP. That's a key opportunity. Now, with the way that I trade, I'm not going to get 30 opportunities a day. I'm probably going to get 2, maybe 3 great opportunities, great setups. I could probably force some trades in there, right? But if I want great opportunities, those are the ones that are going to make me money time in and time out. And that's what this video is all about, is taking those A+ great setups overall, right? Very important to understand. Now, this is where things start to really step up. This is where things really, I think, in my opinion, take a turn, right? Because you start to understand, well, how much am I trying to make? What are my goals? And executing those said trades. And I gave you an example off those opportunities, off of executing that as well. And this is where, again, like I said, things are gonna start taking a little bit of a turn, because I don't want to jump just into, are you successful? Are you unsuccessful? What are you looking at here? But you need to understand why and what you're looking for, and how kind of should your targets be set. So if I'm going long off of a key level or VWAP, right? How big should my stops be, right? That's a common question I see, and this can be different for a lot of individuals and a lot of people. And so I'm going to give you what I would do, what I'd be looking for. And so there's basically a few different ways that you can attack this. Looking at risk to reward, when you're trading options and trading stocks, I think your risk reward has to be higher than 1. And 2 to 3 is where you want it to be. That's the sweet spot. Trading futures, you don't necessarily have to have that, because you're not looking at Greeks, you're not looking at underlying things, you're looking at straight value of what you're trading. Okay, so things are a little bit more interesting here. Now, what you would like to see ideally, right? You don't want to have like a 40-point stop and a 40-point target. It's gonna be a tough area to look for. But you also have to know how much money are you trying to make. Now, if you're trading one mini contract, then a $10 move on the Nasdaq is $200, and so that's always what I'm thinking about in my head, is like $200 is like that really sweet spot, especially for this video of trying to make $1,000 a day or even per trade, right? That's what you have to be looking for, is a $200 marker. And so again, you can go with micros if you want, but for the sake of minis, that's always I'm looking for. So if we get that touch of VWAP or near VWAP or near a key level, right? I always want to be a little bit more conservative if I'm having a 1-to-1 stop. Why? Because I don't want to get like trapped on a wick. So I'd rather get a wick underneath our level or around our level, have stops around 20 points away from where we're at. So you're getting in at 19.35. I'd have my stop, I would want it lower than 19.3, to be honest, so I can get that wick back up, either back into our equal highs right around here, or if you get a push higher back into 19.4 flat. Now, you can also go the swing trade route, right, where you're trying to go higher to be like a 200-point move, 150-point move, right? Now, I would size in smaller, so it's important to understand that, know what you're looking for. You can size, your stops a little bit wider, but your profit target's gonna be a lot higher as well. And so it's important knowing what changes around there as well. And that's where this really gets interesting, what I want to break down here, right? Now, again, we have our main mission right here, our main quest, but where things always get interesting is when we start to understand the side quest, right? I feel like this is where everything gets good, right? We have our main story, what we're looking for, trying to get to that area of $1,000 a trade, but we got to look at what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. So when we start coming down here, it's important to start breaking this down a little bit further of, right, how much are we looking to make? And for me, 200 per trade, 200 per day is a way to look at this. And again, I know you're like, Tyler, I thought you said $1,000 a day. I'm going to show you step by step. And I just went over these two things with you a second ago, right? So a 10-point move, $10 move is going to be $200. Now, if you want to go, 5 micros, it's a 20-point move. So whatever you're looking for, that's what you're trying to accomplish right there. And this is per account, okay? Now, I'm going to go somewhere with understanding per account, and it's important to understand scaling. But you need to understand this is kind of big picture. And you need to understand, if you can't handle $200, if you can't handle, a smaller amount, then you're not gonna be able to handle a larger amount. It's gonna be more stress, more piling on. And you're gonna be able to scale this over time. But in the beginning, I encourage you guys to stay at that $200 level, right? 10, 20-point moves, bread and butter, scalping in and out. Now, again, if you want to do more swings, again, size down to micros and go for the swings if you want. But again, this, in my opinion, is the sustainability. Getting reactions off your key levels, quick trades in, quick trades out. And a lot of these trades, they don't last long. They're like, 30 seconds to a minute tops, right? Because you're getting reactions very fast off of those levels like I showed you. Now from here, again, you start going to the other bullet point of what you're looking at is that scaling action. And again, I think this is where things really start to take flight and really start to break down a little bit better for most people. It's because, again, at one account, again, obviously if you're trading one account, you're not copy trading anything, then you're making $200. You make $200, you just made $200. But then you start getting to the point of like, okay, well, I have 3 accounts. Then if you have 3 accounts and you're making $2 in each account, if you're copy trading those, which is really easy to do with Project X and these other platforms, then you're making $600, right? And it just starts compounding over time, right? 5 accounts, 1,000, 10 accounts, 2,000. And again, this is where I think you can start really getting into serious money. This is how I was able to make, the 15,000 bucks in 2 weeks, whatever it was, because it just starts compounding quickly. Now, the hard part is you start, getting addicted to the rush, how much you're making, things along those lines. And you kind of forget the process of everything that got you to this point, right? You forget that, you started out small. You forgot that you needed to start to understand that. Just keep that same mentality. You don't need to size up like crazy. Making $10,000 a week is amazing money, right? Like, what are we talking about, right? The next point from there too. What was I identifying those good opportunities, right? And that's what I'm always saying on the channel is everything's building on top of each other. So you have to understand that. So going back into this, it's important to realize you can't go into the mentality, okay, I'm at one account, okay, I'm gonna get to 10 accounts next. That's an incredible risk to yourself. And so when you're doing that, you're opening yourself up to a lot of pain, in my opinion. So you want to make sure you're going along this lines of, okay, I'm making money first, and then I'm scaling over time. I'm going from one account to 2 to 3 to 5, whatever it may be. I'm not going from 1 to 10. I'm not skipping a major part of the process. Now, another major point that I need to throw in here, and I had to edit this into the video, is going over which prop firms work for you. And I'm just going to give you my honest opinion on who I like, who I've used, and who I'm actively giving my money to right now. Okay, now there's 2 routes you can go. You can do the eval route, which will always be cheaper. So this is important to know. Now there's eval and there's straight to funded. You pay for none of the, you don't have to do any the test, right? So Topstep I think is just the most well known, right? And I use them. I still use them, but it's just I always have something in the pipeline with these guys. I always will tell people I recommend the 50K accounts. It makes the most sense. It's the most logical. It just makes the most sense. Based off maximum loss to profit target, it makes mathematically the most sense of how much you're paying. What's important to know is you read the fine print here. It's $50 for your initial to do your eval to prove you can even get money, and then $165 or $150, I'm sorry, to activate that account, right? So it's gonna be $200 all in if you pass on your first attempt, okay? Now, I don't think this is the best option for new traders if you've never done this before, but I do love Topstep. I'll let you know that right now. If you're a new trader, who I would use is My Funded Futures. I have the link down below and the code. And so all in, it's only $97 for a 50K account. That's if you pass, you have to pay no activation fee, nothing along those lines, okay? Very important to know. And it's a starter account, not the Starter Plus, it's a starter. That's the one that I would use. Your drawdown's even higher as well than Topstep. And then if you don't want to do eval, this is my top pick right now, especially if you already have experience. I recommend if you have experience only though, is straight funded. You don't do any evals, nothing along those lines. It's just a consistency rule. But I use the 150K accounts here, and I have 3 of them. You can only have 3 max accounts. That's all you can have. So I use the 150Ks, and I have 3 of them. It makes the most sense. I like top one a lot. The link is down there below. I don't have a link for Topstep. I still think it's good. I love Project X. This is my top pick for straight to funded. And again, when you use my code, you get 55% off, more than 50% off. So on those site, I think it says 50. Yeah, it's only 50% off. You get an additional 5% off. So it's $370, I think. So that's just 100, 150 bucks cheaper than anyone else out there. Makes the most sense who I use. But let's get back. So again, when we go back in here, it's important to understand this. And I think this is just the best overall view for us so we understand that this is all building on top of each other, okay? Now, from executing the trade, successful or unsuccessful, we're going to go with the latter, right? We're going to go, so let's say we're successful. We record a profit. Now, if you're unsuccessful, obviously you get to adjust that strategy and what you're looking at. Now, again, if you follow my content, what I'm doing, a lot of the stuff that I do, it's not so much that you have to reset, because here, I'm going to show you the formula is you adjust your strategy, okay, then have to reanalyze the market, and have to go back. And you start to understand, you already start to look at this from a viewpoint of okay, this is I have to go all the way back here, analyze the market, identify opportunities, etc. When in reality, I don't think that's what you really have to do, right? If you're paying attention, if you're setting yourself up perfectly, right? So really what you do here is you go from that market of going from an unsuccessful trade to you don't even need to adjust your strategy. You just go from unsuccessful right back here to identifying opportunities. Because again, you're still focusing on all those same bullet points of what you're looking for. You're not overcomplicating the market. You know exactly what you're looking for, exactly why you're looking for it, right? And so it's very important to understand and to comprehend. And so even here throughout the day while I'm making this video, right? So you're seeing that you're holding this level, bouncing back up, you bounced it, and then you lost it, and now you're getting back above. So in a perfect world, what you want to see here is a break and retest once again of this overall level, right? A break, a retest, and then trying to trade back up. Again, the same type of strategy of what you've been looking for, what you're trying to trade, and what you're trying to look for. It's just going back into identifying those same opportunities and what you're doing. So you're making sure this is all repeatable. When you get into this idea and when you get into this trading to where things are not repeatable, that's when this becomes a big problem. Because then you can't go from being unsuccessful back to identifying opportunities because you don't really have a plan. You don't really know what you're looking for and why you're looking for it. So then you have to go to adjusting, right? And then you have to go to reanalyzing, and then you have to go all the way back here to formulating a plan, and then going back into identifying opportunity. And that's, you can see how this becomes a major issue, because if you're having all these issues, and it cuts into how long you can even trade with what's happening throughout that session, throughout that day, right? And so it's important to understand how you can go from success to unsuccessful very quickly, and how even unsuccessful can really kind of be the wrong way to look at this, because you're going to have losing trades, right? It's just a matter of why you're having those trades and how often those reasons are occurring, right? So I wouldn't really view this as being unsuccessful. It's more of understanding that it's a game of numbers. Are you putting yourself in winning opportunities, right? Big thing that I'll always say there. Now, going on from there as well, we go for recording a profit. So you made your money, you took a trade. Now, something I mentioned back here, which is interesting, and I'll make sure we can go over this here in a second, is you're recording your profits. So is it worth $1,000 or less than $1,000? And again, this goes back to the point of you're trading one account. You're just starting out. If you're trading more than that, then then I'd be done. Right? That'd be my goal for the day, whatever that may be. Your goal may be over 1,000, maybe lower than 1,000, right? But for the sake of the video, now again, we go on one of our great old. Yeah, here we go again, boys. We're back on a side quest. What can I say? And it takes us back down to scaling, right? Of understanding what's happening there, right? And again, it's going to be very difficult if you're trying to go into it with a process of one account trying to make $1,000 a day. That's going to be a lot more difficult, right? It's going to require more trades, more screen time, a lot more work, more stress. And you have to understand, the longer you're in the market, the bigger you're giving the market more of a chance to get its money back from you. Right? It's like when you're winning at the casino, what do they say? Get up and leave, right? That's not what you do. When you're losing, you probably get up and leave too. But the ultimate point is you have to know your limits. You have to know when to get in, when to get out, and that's the biggest thing I'm saying out here. So again, I think what you're looking for is slow and steady in the beginning. Just make your money, make your money, make your money. That's what you're trying to do. And again, I want to go back here because, again, I want to make sure you guys are understanding what we're looking for of executing that trade and adjusting that strategy. Because funny enough, you're getting that as we speak right now. You came right down to our level, 19,497, a 10-point bounce already. With one micro, that's $200 immediately. So just understanding what's taking place and what's happening there. And this is all happening literally in real time as I'm going over this. So again, when you're looking at that from a scaling viewpoint, that's very important to understand is, are you putting yourself in a position for actual success? Now, I don't think it's putting yourself in a position for actual success if you're taking 20 trades a day, because I refuse to believe that on a regular or consistent level, I'm going to have that many successful opportunities or great opportunities. It's just not likely, right? You have to let the setups come to you. So again, important to understand, important to consider. So again, if you're going back into that, you have to go back into continue scalping, going back into what you're looking at for the overall market, and going back into how you ultimately got to where you were, right? And what ultimately you were looking at, right? So it takes us back from scalping all the way back to your trade plan, and then finding those opportunities off that trade plan, right? And really, this could take you even back here to just identifying those opportunities, because you already developed your trade plan. You don't need to overtrade. But for me, most of the time, I try to be done early on in the day. So if I make my money here, and it's not where I want to be, right? If it's not that $10,000 level, I'll probably just wait till the next day to start getting aggressive once again. I'm not trying to hammer home and, push my luck on the market, right? Important to understand that, important to, have a better comprehension of what's happening there as well. And maintaining that overall strategy once you get there. And again, this is the part where you can really start to tinker with this as well. And that's important to know is, again, going back into our drawing tool there so you can see. Even if you make less than 1,000 and you're making, your goal is, 1,000, but you make, let's say, $300 in the day because you have less accounts, whatever it may be, there's no shame in just stopping, maintaining that strategy, and just waiting for the next day, right? Which in reality, it means continue scalping, but you're waiting for the next day and you're going right back to your trade plan, right? Because that works. It's important to understand. The hardest thing to get to isn't this. This isn't necessarily, this is like, this is like end goal of like tinkering and messing with how much you're making per day. That is end goal. But the hard part is getting a strategy that you're able to be consistent with. That is this this is the hard part. Okay. And it's not even that it's necessarily hard formulating it, right? I don't think so. I really don't believe so. The hard part is being disciplined to stick to it, right? And having that psychology of like, okay, this works. I know it works. I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to keep doing it. And again, I just show this stuff to give you guys examples because it does work. Like it does. Because when you're consistent, and the one thing I'll see with people that are trading underneath me or trading that I follow or anything along those lines is the consistency is where things change. Like locking themselves out of their account, making sure they're putting themselves in good opportunities, everything along those lines. Like this comes from consistency, doing the same thing over and over and over. It's not supposed to be a lot of fun, right? It's not supposed to be a great grand time. The point of this is to do something that works over and over, right? And you know what you're doing, right? At all points in time. You know if it was a good trade, it was a bad trade. Most of the time, you don't have to do too much thinking to understand where you're at in this, formula, right? Very important to note. You know, if you're getting to the point of you're unsuccessful, and really this is the only time you should be adjusting is when you're in the beginning phases of doing this. You don't have a plan out there developed, which is a whole nother problem. That's when you start adjusting. You shouldn't have to do too much adjustments in the market unless you just have an overall bad viewpoint of where you're at. Now, I can give you an example of adjusting the strategy as well, of how things could be done in a better manner or kind of adjusted in the sense of changing your bias throughout the day. So we will actually talk about that really quickly right here. And this is something that I've just grown really used to. And so you actually see here, you had that one trade, you bounced off this level all the way into 1915, a 25-point move. You end up losing it. You're waiting for a retest to trade back to the downside for micro scalping here. Now, again, going back into this morning, this is a 1-minute chart, so important to understand that. So this morning you were, bearish basically all night long into the market open, right? Even to like the first hour market open, right? And so what happens here is honestly, what I'd be looking for is a continued break, retest, and continuation to the downside, right? That's what I would love to see ideally, right? Continue pushing down to our key levels. You're moving very fast. But where things start to change, let's say you hypothetically, you got in here and then you went long here immediately off this. Now, I like to see 5-minute candles close, get more continuation for just a better overall trade. The longer a trade holds at a level, the more important and better the rejection will be. But again, you started to trade here, you looked for the downside, but you got stopped out. Well, this is where you can start to adjust very quickly. It's because not only are you breaking back above this level, but look at how you're holding that level. And again, like a 5-minute time frame gives you even more answers there, which again, I think is super, super important here as well, that you can see is that you get a strong 5-minute candle close above, and the 1 minute obviously gives you a lot of information as well. So important to understand the one, you clearly just mount, and you start breaking back above, start pushing back above, make a higher high. Again, setting back up for that system of what you're looking for and getting a push ultimately back into VWAP and your next key level. So that's the metric of understanding what to adjust for, what to be looking for. But even then, you don't have to rush back into a trade. That's the important part, right? You can take a step back. You can wait till you get above your next key level, right? And again, sucks, but you wait like an hour, right? And then you get another great setup. Key level and VWAP, key level VWAP once again, and another 100, almost 200-point move right there, right? So it's understanding what and why you're looking for it. But again, it all goes back to having that key plan, having that trade plan, going back to early in the morning so you know what to be looking for, why you're looking for it, and just giving you better examples throughout the day. So again, when you're doing this as well, you can go back to the scaling and understand what's really going on there, going with prop firms I mentioned that I like, who I'd be using. And again, it's going to be hard to have 10 accounts on a prop firm unless you're going with something like Apex. I don't use Apex. But the ones that I told you about are the ones that I recommend, who I use. The link is down below for those as well. If you want to trade with us, the link is down there as well. I appreciate you. Have a good one, traders.